Hi, my name is Loretta and this is the Limitless Infinite, and I wanted to make this video today in regards to a video that I saw on Aaron Doughty's channel called Feelit into Existence. And what he was talking about in the video is about kind of starting things now, but how you have to use your feelings in order to kind of get that process going. And there's sort of a process that he put in his video. If you haven't checked it out, really check it out. But how you go from your beliefs to like feelings and thoughts, and then I think it was actions after that. But there's sort of a process that you use when you want to start something, and the way that you begin, and what he was saying in his perspective, is really by feeling things. And so my additional perspective to that is that when we are trying to feel things into existence, what we're really doing is using our heart center. That is the center where we kind of generate different kinds of feelings. And within that, when you use your heart center, what you're really doing is trying to use it as a tool to help you understand what it is that you love. What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you are filled with joy about? What brings you happiness? And a lot of that comes from sort of this frequency of love. And depending on how we qualify or amplify that frequency, it gives us sort of this different range of other emotions. So in this video, I just want to give a quick explanation of how we're basically receivers and transmitters of this love frequency that comes into our heart center. And then the different ways that we amplify it are going to give you these whole big range of different emotions. And then, like what he was saying in his video, when you want to feel something into existence, what you're using as your tool to decide, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right feeling? Is that when you are making steps to get to your goal, if you are like, oh, maybe I should, write these notes today, but the feeling that you generate when you think about that is not that good. But when you say, you know what, maybe I'll go out and have a conversation with a couple different people I know, and then that'll help me be able to get really started. And the feeling that you have with that idea is better. Like, you feel more positive. You feel like you're going to get more information, and before you even go to make the notes. That is basically the love frequency, and it's amplified in different ways because you've thought of two different ideas of how to feel this process into existence. But your heart is basically helping guide you into which one is probably going to be the right next step for you, depending on how you have now qualified, or not qualified, but how you basically have received this frequency. You've thought about these ideas, and then now you're amplifying the frequency of love that you're receiving, and that is helping you navigate through this process. I'm just gonna switch it up, and so you can kind of see my board and see some of the notes that I have. Okay, so this is my board, and I'll get to these notes in a second. But the first thing I wanted to say is that, like he was saying in his video, especially about love, with a lot of emotions, that we have specific rules, kind of like sets of rules or conditions that we have put around certain emotions, depending on the experiences that we've had with these emotions. But since we're kind of like talking about, or I'm kind of talking about love as being this feeling that you're going to use to generate these things or feel them into existence, I just kind of want to focus on that emotion. But there's I think just to clarify a certain point about love, is that when we feel love within ourselves, it's the frequency. We're feeling this frequency. And what that is source. When we are connected to source, which we always are, but when you become aware of it, the energy that you get from source is this really high vibrational frequency that is love. Love is one of the highest vibrational frequency, or is the highest vibrational frequency that we're aware of. And so when you're connected to source and you become aware of it, you can become also aware that you are constantly receiving this frequency of love. And then when we want love, like when we want love from people, then we're tapping into this other degree of love that is actually an emotion. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that love, the frequency that we receive from source, it is a frequency of feeling, but then we transition that frequency into emotion when we start applying it to different kinds of relationships. And especially when we say we desire love, like when we want love from other people, that is the emotion. We want love from, because what that is you're not getting that from source, you're getting that from another person. And so basically you're asking somebody else to receive this frequency from source. They're going to qualify it based on their relationship with you. And then when they give it to you, they're basically attaching sort of the qualification that they put on it themselves based on your relationship. So then it becomes sort of this emotion. So it's kind of a different, they change the frequency depending on how they amplify it with you. And so when you're going around, if you're trying to feel things into existence, and the way you're doing that is by trying to receive energy from other people, which we can now call love, because basically any energy that people are transmitting through them is the love frequency, just in different variations of amplifications. What that is you're actually trying to receive other people's energy to generate what you're trying to put into existence. And I think what Aaron was saying is his video is that we need to feel it into existence ourselves. So instead of, it's like wanting to accomplish something and you're basically like waiting for somebody else to point out to you that this idea is successful, or that you have done something that is accomplished, or you know, you have made steps and now you've gotten acknowledgement from someone else, and that helps you move forward. But what that does is it really is asking other people to give you this energy to make you feel like you're making the right steps into accomplishing this, you know, or manifesting whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. And what you need to do is be able to generate that energy within yourself. And then you're doing the feeling it into existence. You're not asking somebody else to give you their qualified feeling of love and different emotions to help support you in this process. And so the way that this happens is that you basically, like what I was, when you bring in this love, well, you don't bring it in, but when this love frequency comes in from source, we qualify it. And by qualify it, I mean that you are basically a receiver of this signal, of this frequency. And then what happens is, depending, your mind is the definer. So depending on whatever the experience that you're having with someone or something, if it's just thoughts or ideas, if you're talking about a relationship, if you're talking about something you're trying to manifest, your mind starts defining what that thing is to you. And then once your mind defines it, so like if you are bringing in this frequency and you're thinking of, and I'll go put it here, like your partner, like if you're a partner in a relationship, you're going to really amplify that signal. So what happens is your heart is the amplifier of this frequency. And so when you bring in this frequency, you receive it, your mind defines the relationship, it's your partner, so your heart amplifies this frequency because you guys have built this relationship together. And now you can see that this neutral, what would have been neutral frequency that came in as love is now even more amplified through you qualifying it in this definition of a really positive, joyful, passionate relationship that you have with this person. And so when you do that, it's like you're getting a lot of whatever momentum from your feeling or your input. But this works also, you know, like I put here a couple different examples. So like if this is love frequency coming in or source energy, and then you're thinking about a dog, maybe you don't have a dog, but you like dogs. This is like, this frequency is not as amplified. It's amplified a little, but not as much as your partner. And then I always like to think of, if you can really start to believe that even the things that you feel really neutral about, that is this incoming love frequency. So a lot of people, I think it's a confusion of that love the emotion. Like you don't think, oh, I love my chairs, because a lot of times what you're thinking about is love the emotion, that the emotional connection that we have. And we are thinking about love, that feeling being that emotion. But really, if you're thinking about source energy itself being love frequency, then it comes in kind of neutral. It could be anything. You know, love frequency is a table, it's a rock, it's a tree, it's you, it's me, it's this camera, it's this whiteboard. Love frequency is in everything because everything is from source. So the baseline of everything is kind of already this love frequency. And then what happens is we can qualify things more, we can amplify it, or what'll happen when I explain is that sometimes this three-dimensional world actually has a way of dampening that signal. But I just put here, like, if you're thinking about a table and you're like, you know, like you have a neutral relationship with your table. You don't love it, you don't hate it. It's there, it's purposeful. But this is just frequency coming in and you're thinking about an object. It's, you know, that you need, that you have, no big deal. This could be like the neutral wavelength of this frequency that is love, because love is really everything. And then when you think about something like negative, like let's say you have a relationship with a person and it's not good, like you have had, you know, just it's a person that you either don't get along with or you guys don't like each other, but or even if you think about this as just something you dislike, like if you really dislike bacon or something like that. But what happens is, it's not really, what happens is the three-dimensional world itself has a way of densifying our perception of something. And so what that means is, like, you don't really like hate bacon, but it's like you don't really love bacon. And the best way to think about it is, if everything in the world is this love frequency, it's kind of like the law of polarity too, which I'll explain in a different video, but hate is really not the opposite of love, it's just love. So it's like the law of polarity, it's a scale, it's a polar scale, but what that means is the whole scale is love. It's just hate is a very low vibration of love frequency. And so when we try to, if we can really start to think about, especially love in this way, we can sort of take out this idea of duality. It also takes out some of this, like when Aaron is saying, like when we're trying to feel things into existence and you feel those things like resistance or like negativity, or you feel like the conditions or limitations of something, what that really is like, it's like the same, it's like on that same polar scale as like if you're, like in his case, I think he was talking a lot about freedom, and then on the other end of that was like a lot of resistance. It's like resistance isn't really the opposite of freedom, it's just freedom at a really low vibration. And if you can kind of even just attune your mind into this state of thinking, you can kind of understand that when you're navigating your way through feeling things into existence, that even when you feel things that seem to you as negative things or blocks in your way because they're limiting, or conditions that you don't necessarily like, or resistance to something, it's like what he was saying is, like, I think he gave the example like, oh, he stopped, like he was thinking like, oh, when he has to go to his other job that he's not like that passionate about, like selling shoes, he was feeling all this resistance because it wasn't making the videos, which is what he's really passionate about. But he changed his thinking and was like, oh, I'm choosing to go to work. You know, like he might have made the choice as that work supports his ability to be able to do what he's passionate about. And then that became, that idea of resistance became more freeing to him because he was like, I'm actually making the choice. And almost what that is in his mind, he did like exactly what we were saying, is he took the idea that resistance is the opposite of freedom, and it was just resistance was a low vibration of freedom, and he amplified that vibration more by just looking at his life and the choices that he made in a way that gave him this different perspective. So instead of being like, oh, I have to go to my job because I have to pay my bills, he just looked at it from a different angle and said, oh, I'm choosing to go to my job, and in that choice I'm able to still have time to do this other stuff. And what he did was he took that vibration of resistance and he basically brought the vibration of that up closer to what freedom was for him. And so, you know, when you're applying this into like what he was talking about, feeling things into existence, like I said, you're really using your heart center a lot. You're choosing to try to figure out what things bring you joy, what brings you happiness, what feels like freedom to you. And the biggest thing I think to remember is that love is a very unusual, not unusual, but the frequency of love really encompasses all emotions, all degrees of emotion. So when we are thinking about different kinds of emotions, to me, my perspective is that all emotions are just different degrees on this love scale, on the polar scale of this frequency love. It contains all emotions, because you can really feel any emotion but still be doing it out of a reason of love. But even if you think even past that, is just anytime you feel something in your heart, no matter what the emotion is, it's coming from, you're receiving this source energy, that basically is how you're alive here on planet Earth. And then you're qualifying this love frequency that comes in as source in different ways. And then the vibration of that is defined by all these different kinds of emotions that we have about things. So what I was saying is, when you're feeling things into existence, it's so important to know that the baseline of pretty much everything is already love, but even things that you're pretty neutral about. And then when you go to navigate, trying to feel things into existence, when you start thinking about things that bring you these different emotions of joy or happiness or freedom, and you can feel that, with each word, there's a kind of a different vibration that comes through with it, that basically what that is you're qualifying this love frequency that you're bringing in, that you are constantly receiving and transmitting, and you're amplifying it in different ways based on, through your heart, based on how you're defining things. And then you can use that as a tool to help you decide which choices you're making on your path to really bring about these things that you're trying to manifest. And so the other thing too, like I was saying before, is that it's important to remember that when you're asking for people, when you're trying to do anything outside of yourself, and which I think was kind of the point of this video, is that you have to be able to feel these things on your own in order to make that creation for yourself, in order to really begin to have the power to manifest things. Because when you're waiting for other people to give you acknowledgement about your decisions, or you're waiting for somebody else to, acknowledge that you are successful based on the decisions that you make, or that you're accomplished, you're kind of just waiting for other people's energy, and you're not feeling it into your own existence. So it is kind of important, I think, just to remember that you always have this frequency, and it's always coming through you. And then you can start making choices today on how you want to qualify it. And qualify it is really how you're amplifying this frequency to work for you. And to know that a lot of, which I'll talk about in a different video, but a lot of when we have source energy that comes in that gets slowed down or becomes very low vibrational, which I think he actually posted another video about recently too, but it's not, it's ideas and conceptions that exist within the three-dimensional world about things. Like I was saying, you're thinking, this person, if I hate this person, that is making this love frequency really low vibrational. But it's not the hate that makes it low vibrational. It's that your perception right now as a human is that hate is a very negative emotion, and that thought in and of itself starts to slow this frequency down. Like if you're like, oh, I hate it, then all of a sudden that trigger, it's almost like this trigger word to you, slows down the vibration of this frequency that you're transmitting, and now it becomes low vibrational. And then you kind of end up with this connection to this other thing at this low vibrating state. So that's important. I mean, that's kind of a whole different conversation, but it is important to remember too that when you're going through the process of feeling things into existence, if you feel resistance, to remember that resistance is just a low vibration of, freedom. Or like if you're feeling something and you're going through your process of what to do next, and you come across something that really doesn't sit well with you, or you don't like it, or it makes you feel uncomfortable, that it's just, this low vibration. So something in your three-dimensional experience, is basically something in your three-dimensional experience is causing your brain to have this idea that something is negative in nature. which it's really not. It's just a low vibration of a positive thing. And then that basically starts to slow that frequency down. So it is important, I think, like what he was saying, is to always try to make sure that you're making the choices and you're really thinking thoughts and having beliefs that are going to keep you resonating with these higher frequencies. So it's like I said, just remember, like, the most neutral thing is already love frequency coming in. So if you're on your process to feeling something into existence, you're not necessarily going to have any negative feelings about anything. So if you just stick or can like keep in your mindset that the most neutral of ideas and the most neutral basis beliefs or thoughts or feelings that you have while you're starting that process, that's already like love. You're already transmitting this beautiful feeling through, that then you just kind of follow the path of things that start to increase that vibration. So when you're making your steps for the next things to do and the next thing to do, that find the one where you can feel, okay, like I'm feeling more than I feel when I think about my chairs, so that's already something that's increased. And I think that that can also help, because basically what you're doing is you're kind of building off this positive vibration and you're looking for higher and higher vibrations as you go through the process. And when you do that and you're stimulating yourself by qualifying this frequency into higher and higher vibrations, it becomes easier and easier to get to this state of belief, because you're amplifying all this positive energy and you're qualifying it within your heart by, you know, being aware of how that energy works within you and how you can qualify it and how you can look at something and understand that it isn't necessarily negative, it's just a low vibration of a positive thing. Then it makes it easier for you to sort of accumulate a lot of momentum to get to what you want to manifest, because you're just sort of generating the momentum by building off of more and more and more positive vibrations. So anyway, I hope that was kind of a lot for me to spit out. I've done another video kind of on the love frequency, but this is actually pretty much the same information and really clear. I hope it's super helpful. I just saw his video and was kind of spurred on because I've done this previous video. It's in my playlist called The Power of Love. But this kind of really tied in with the information that he had, and I thought it was really important to get out because, you know, because he's so right. When we feel things into existence, that's the easiest way for us to go through this process of manifesting. But to just remember that, you know, finding the loving part, you know, that love frequency, that joy, that happiness, that freedom, all those positive, higher vibrational feelings, you know, that comes through understanding like how this heart center works, how the energy that comes in from source, how you can qualify it. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I'll see you in my next video.